Hi, everyone. My name is Johan Mallet, Senior Program Manager at Microsoft, part of the Customer Experience team. And today I'm here to give you an introduction of Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. As you will very soon notice, Defender for Cloud Apps can be really 5 or 6 different products. It has a very broad set of features, and we will try to discuss and give a quick overview of each of them. We'll start with a quick introduction of what's a CASB, a Cloud Access Security Broker. Then we'll talk about Defender for Cloud Apps specifically and each of its features. Shadow IT discovery and control, information protection, secure access, threat protection and detection, cloud and SaaS security posture management, and a few things with regards to enterprise integration and automation. So in general, Microsoft security is comprised of of different pillars. You will have, first of all, secure access, which is going to be mostly around Azure AD or other identity-centric products, Defender for identity as well. We have threat protection, which is really among most of our products. Defender for Cloud Apps has a strong section on the threat protection. And also we have Microsoft 365 Defender that is acting as our XDR to help synchronize and consolidate all those different threat detection products. Information protection. You will see that information protection in the cloud is now critical, and Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps will help you with that. Finally, cloud security, trying to help you secure not only your Microsoft resources, but as well other PaaS and SaaS as well. So our approach is, as I just mentioned, to help you protect, have a multi-cloud security posture, making sure you're able to protect not only your Microsoft products, but also non-Microsoft products, as we will see in the next few slides. We're here to, we have other products that can help you protect your cloud workloads, can help you protect activities across cloud apps. And we also have the ability to help you secure some of your developer apps, such as GitHub. So a quick intro to what we call CASBs, or Cloud Access Security Broker. So we all know that most applications are now in the cloud. The time of on-premise is way behind us. And with cloud apps came new challenges, and this is what CASBs are here to respond to. So there are different pillars in Defender for Cloud Apps, or in CASBs in general, that we can help you protect. Number one, identify unsanctioned apps. How many of your users are actually using their personal Dropbox or G Drive account to send corporate data? We may want to know about that. How many, and even in the apps that are completely sanctioned, like Office 365, or if you're using a corporate tenant of G Suite, for example, or Google Workspace, you may want to know what your users are doing with these. You may want to be able to restrict what is being shared, how it's being shared, to whom it is being shared, for example. And on top of that, we also have the requirement to protect from cloud threats. So of course, now that everything is in the cloud, hackers have new opportunities to enter your applications, and we're able to detect some of the main threats that may impact your environment. So now that's very general, and more specific to what we do, Microsoft, with Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, we have the ability to, we have several pillars that we will discuss in the next half an hour or so. We'll talk about discovery of Shadow IT. We will talk about protecting your information in the cloud, what we call secure access and proxying of your information. We will talk about security posture management, and finally, threat detections, and so anomaly detection that goes together. So a quick intro on Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. This is a very simple to deploy CASB. In a few hours, you already have a lot of value out of it. You can simply connect Office, and you will already have threat detection coming in. Then you connect other applications to it, which takes just a few minutes per application. And you can also get additional signal and enrich the data to have more and better, more solid threat detection engine. So the applications you can connect are numerous. We're not going to list them all right now, but you can see a few logos here. Obviously, we have Office, we have WebEx, we have Slack, we have Workday, Google Cloud Platform, Google Workspace, Salesforce, Box, a number of them, and we're adding them on a regular basis. And there's a lot that I did not mention. As I said, they're too numerous to mention right now. So let's start with Shadow IT discovery and control. So one of the challenges right now that most IT environments have to deal with is what applications are my users leveraging? It's very difficult to find out, are they using their personal Dropbox or their personal Gmail to share data, or even something very simple that we see on a regular basis, which is, let's send myself this document to my Gmail and I'll work on it tomorrow. Or when I'm at home or this weekend or something like that. That could lead to data leakage. It could be pretty dangerous, or just uploading it to their G Drive and coming back to it when they're home. There's nothing necessarily malicious about it, but it can still be a risky behavior for the organization. So it is important that you notice which applications are in use within the environment, and then you can make decisions on what you want to do with those applications. You can decide that you want to sanction or unsanction them. So once you ingest your data in Defender for Cloud Apps, there are different ways to do that. You can do that by either ingesting firewall logs. We have a log collector that can do that for you, or you can also do that through Defender for Endpoint, or through some secure web gateways that we partner with. I will get to that in a couple slides. Then you will have this beautiful dashboard that you can see as a capture on the screen here. So it gives you a good idea of the trends of usage in your environment. You see which kind of applications are in use first. You see the amount of data that is being leveraged. You also see the top apps, and very important, you see the top entities, or what we could call the top offenders, users that have, for example, a large amount of uploads. And just looking at that dashboard, we can very often take decisions, or at least investigate and verify if something is normal, not normal. Obviously, we don't suggest that our customers rely on manual checking of this dashboard. We do have some automated pattern analysis that is done. We have some built-in policies that will verify any kind of unusual activity. And based on that, it will trigger alerts. It will let the admins know, hey, somebody is who is usually not leveraging G Suite so much now uploaded 5 gigs to his Google Drive, something like that, and that will give you a good idea of maybe this is a risky behavior. Maybe that person is uploading something to get his data before leaving the company. These are the kind of examples we've seen in the past in real life customer scenarios, and we want to make sure that we are able to notice when these things happen. Then you can decide that you can you want to block some applications that you would consider either risky or not necessary to your business. And we have we'll come to that in a few minutes. We have a number of applications that we that we classify. More than the slide says 17,000. We're closer to 30,000 as of today. And we have about 90 plus security and compliance risk factor that we analyze those applications against, which allows us to give you some kind of a risk score that you can use to make decision on whether an application is risky or is it worth your trust. Note that even if an application is trustworthy, there are, such as G Drive, for example, there are cases where you would not want your users to leverage them to store personal data, of course. So in order to get that data in Defender for Cloud Apps, you have several options. The preferred option is integration with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So Defender for Endpoint is our endpoint protection solution, and it also helps identifying what kind of web applications your users are leveraging. And this data can be automatically sent cloud to cloud to Defender for Cloud Apps. And then we're able, with literally one click in the Defender for Endpoint configuration, get that beautiful dashboard, get all the information. You even have more information than with the log collector data, with data that would come from firewall logs, simply because we're able to also get you the machine names and the number of machines that are leveraging a specific application. So it's very valuable and very simple to use. So this is our recommended and preferred solution. Now, for customers that do not use Defender for Endpoint, we also have the ability to integrate with some secure web gateway. So the secure web gateway we now support are Zscaler, iBoss, Menlo Security, and you can just leverage them to send the data directly from the gateway to Defender for Cloud Apps. And then the data is sent to Defender for Cloud Apps. You can decide that you would want to sanction or unsanction applications, and automatically they could be blocked from your secure web gateway, just like you can also do it with Defender for Endpoint. With single clicks, you can decide to block applications. If you don't have secure web gateway that is compatible and you do not have Defender for Endpoint, then you can just rely on what we call the log collector, which is a virtual machine that you would deploy in your environment, and it would get data from your firewall logs. We support almost any firewall out there and send it to the cloud. And then you can also we also have another type of app discovery here. It's what we call OAuth app discovery. So when you connect an application such as Office, we will also detect any application that is connected to it, and we're able to verify if those applications have a high, medium, or low permission level, and we can also decide to block them simply. Let's do a quick demo on Shadow IT. So I'll give you a quick overview of our dashboard. Now, this is our Cloud Discovery console. And here, if we move to Cloud Discovery dashboard, you will see the screen that was shown in our slides. So obviously, this being a demo environment, the number of users is small, but it gives you a good idea of which applications here are in higher use than others. You can see, and I'm going to zoom a little bit, which users are more active than others, and then you can simply investigate by going to this portal. And you can pivot very simply. We pivoted into the user. We can go to discover the apps and see that for this user, all these apps were discovered, and we can just sort them by traffic so that we know this user has been using Exchange Online, which is fine as far as we're concerned. And if there were other applications that we would not trust, we would be able to investigate them. So if we want to click on Exchange just for the sake of it, we can also pivot, and then we can see how many users are using. We can see, first of all, the information about this application. So in this case, it's a pretty secure app, of course, and you can see the different kind of settings and different kind of information we capture for each of those applications. So and we classify close to 30,000 of these like that with all these parameters. So you can know if an application will support multi-factor. If you hover over the little information mark, you get more information. If the application supports file sharing or certain compliance in some cases. So some of these information are gathered automatically. Some of them are gathered through actual cloud analysts that will review those apps on a regular basis. And then you can review the usage, and you can pivot again on users and see who else is using this application. So on top of that, you have the ability to create policies. So by default, some of them are already created, such as the Cloud Discovery anomaly detection, and it will do exactly what it says, which is finding out anomalies when an application has not been in use so much, and then there's a peak of usage, or some users are using it more than others. These are things that will trigger a warning, and the alert will be sent to the admins, so they can review any behavior that is not normal. You also have the ability to create policies. So if I create a Cloud App Discovery policy, there is a number of templates you can use. I'm just going to go with this one, new high volume upload app. And this one would basically trigger every time you have a new application that will have more than 500 megs. That's the default, but we can change that of traffic per day. And then we would be able to trigger an alert based on that. We can add as many filters as we want. These are obviously templates, and you can modify them once you apply them. And so moving on, the next phase of our discussion is going to be about information protection. So I think it's needless to say that information protection is key right now. There are so many stories about information being leaked in the public that our customers really want to protect from leaking confidential data. So for that, you can use Defender for Cloud Apps to help you find out potential data leakage, or protect your data that is stored in your cloud drives. So that can help you with the data stored in Office, such as in OneDrive, in SharePoint, and by definition in Teams as well. But it also helps you reviewing and protecting data in other applications. We're able to inspect the content of your data stored in corporate tenants of Box, of Dropbox, of Google Drive, ServiceNow, Salesforce. All these applications store massive amount of your data, and to prevent data leakage, we can certainly do content inspection and ensure that either no sensitive data is stored there, or that you would be notified if anything confidential would be stored there. Once we identify the data, once we understood your data exposure, we can apply some remediation. We can apply, for example, for some applications, some protection label from your MIP labels. We can put files in quarantine. We can simply delete files if you want to. The sky is the limit. We also even have the ability to apply a Power Automate workflow, and I'll get to that a little later. So you can apply governance actions that are really tailored to your needs. And then you can keep monitoring. You can you can make sure that as any new file that is stored in those cloud drive you're notified for it, or you apply the proper governance action once you notice it. So here a couple example of files that we can notice that are being shared, for example, and you can create some very simple policies that will help you noticing when a file is shared with either a specific domain or a specific access level, whether it's shared internally or externally. You can also find out the content of the file. You can inspect it, and based on the sensitivity of what we have inspected, decide that this file is allowed to be shared, or this file is not allowed to be shared. So there's a number of built-in actions you can apply like that, and we will get to that in just a few minutes through the demo. And so we integrate with Microsoft Information Protection Solution here, so that all the types that you have in Microsoft Information Protection and our other DLP solutions are also integrated in Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. So by default, I believe we have now more than 150 built-in sensitive information types. You can see a couple sample on that screen, but there's much more. And you can also create your own if you have a type that you use in your organization that will help you identify specific sensitive documents. You can apply, you can create a type and you can use it, same type in MIP or in Microsoft Defender for cloud apps. So the quick workflow of how do we protect sensitive files in the cloud. So let's say a user uploads a sensitive file in a cloud app. We're going to say OneDrive. You can configure policies so that a classification label is automatically applied to protect the file, because the file contains some sensitive data, for example. And then the user will try to share the file with external user. So number one, the user is not able to access the file simply because it contains a classification. But you can also unshare the file at the same time. So you would have the ability to go with belt and suspenders, have different layers of security, which is always recommended. And on top of that, you can let the admin know that, hey, this guy tried to share a file. It's okay because the file was unshared and it was protected from the get-go. So that gives you a good idea of what you can do and how you should protect your data using Defender for cloud apps. And let's go with a demo. Let's cancel our way out of our previous demo. And let's simply create a policy just to provide a quick overview of how these policies can be created. So simple examples of what can be done is let's find out files that are shared anyway externally. So we have public and external. The difference between public and external is public, anybody with the link could access it. External, anybody that's been shared with specifically could access the file. And the first public here would be when the file is browsable, which does not apply to Office, does not apply to many apps anymore, actually. Then you can apply additional filters. So if you would like to, for instance, apply this policy to only files that are stored in Box and files that would contain social security numbers, for example. So let's say US social security number. Then we're done. You can apply a few settings, like if you see only one, maybe that's not worth your time. You want to only go with small databases, for example. And that would be your policy. It would tell you any file that is shared with contains more than 10 social security numbers. Then you can decide what you want to do. So right now we applied this to Box, for instance. You can decide that you would want to remove the share. Any external user that would have access to this file would no longer have it if you check that simple box. Or you can say you can share it, but only for 15 days, for instance. Or you could put it in quarantine if you prefer. And lastly, as we discussed earlier, you could apply a sensitive label among the one that you created. And this way, even if the file is shared, only people with an account within the organization or that are specifically allowed to access this this file or this label will be able to review the file. So different apps have different governance actions. If I go with Office, it's quite similar. Others have less depending on what the APIs allow us to do, but you always have the ability to do something, notify users or let the user know that they have created a file that does not match your criteria. And then when we match a policy, we're able to see the different files that match the policy. And for example, here we can see that the file was matched for this policy. It's a non-password protected link in Box. And we're able to see that 9 files were shared like that. We may want to take actions. We can take actions manually. or we can do it from the policy if we'd like. And let's move on to the next phase, secure access. So what are we talking about when we say secure access? The idea here is to apply protection in real time. Everything we talked about prior with the information protection is done through what we call app connectors. And app connectors require us to create that app connector, and also require some asynchronous data gathering, so that Defender for Cloud App would query those applications, get the data, which is not often real time. But we also have the ability to apply some real-time controls, for example, preventing the upload of certain type of files, or preventing the download of certain type of files for that matter. So the idea of real-time and session policy enforcement is that we will be able to integrate with Azure AD, or actually any identity management provider, such as Ping or ADFS for that matter, and we're able to intercept a session, so that the session will be proxied by Defender for Cloud Apps functionality called Conditional Access App Control. Once the application is proxied, then you can decide whatever happens to it. You can decide that the user will only be able to view the files online, but not download them, for example. That can be great, for example, when somebody is browsing from a non-managed device. You may want to let that person view the files online, but not download them. You can also decide that you would want to block printing, block copy paste, all these, or cut, copy paste, all those things in the idea to prevent files or data from leaking out of the application. You can also prevent file upload, which allows you to prevent uploading of malware, for example, or if you decide that data that contains sensitive information should just not be uploaded to the cloud, you could also simply block it at the browser level. So a quick capture here of the user experience. You would have a nice block message that would show up on your web application, so that you would the user would be informed, and you would have an idea of why the action was blocked. So the integration that we have with Azure AD is and Azure AD conditional access is really simple. All you have to do is check one box, as you can see, and once you check this box, your application will automatically be proxied and will apply any session policy that applies to the session. You can also do that with non-Microsoft identity providers. It just requires a little bit more configuration, but it's all documented on our docs pages. I'll give you a quick demo of all of that. So once you have created your conditional access policy, as you saw in the screen capture in our deck, you can create what we call session policies in Defender for Cloud Apps. So a session policy will allow you to decide what your users are allowed or not allowed to do when using a web application. Remember, we took the example of Office, but this could apply to any application that supports SAML v2 and goes through your identity provider. So for example, if we simply want to block file download, let's say we do not want data out of the browser on a non-compliant machine. So the default filter here is very simple. Device tag does not equal either Intune compliant or hybrid Azure AD joined. If you are using devices that do not support these two, you can also have client certificates. And if a device does not contain the client certificate, then the download will not be allowed. You can choose which app you want here, or you can remove that to apply the policy to all apps. And then you can apply filter for the files. Let's say we really care. We know that all of our data is is in PDF files, so we're only going to do that. Only PDF files will be. Let's do it this way. Only PDF and docx files will be blocked from download. It's just an example. If they contain, and we'll go with a sensitive information type. Let's pick the first one that we have here, ABA routing number. Any file that is a PDF or a docx and that contain an ABA routing number, we want to simply block it. It won't be downloaded. At the browser level, this will be prevented. You also have the ability to protect, which means that instead of blocking it, you can let the user download it, but it's only going to be readable by employees. So even if typical scenario that we've seen with many customers, and unfortunately in the news as well, when data is leaked, I go on a business trip and my laptop breaks. I go to the publicly used computer at the hotel that is full of malware. I log in. I don't even type my password because I have passwordless logon, so that's even better. But then what I do, I just want to work on my latest file for tomorrow, and I download it on the desktop, edit it, re-upload it, and of course I forget it right there on the public desktop. So here you could make sure that the file is protected, so that even if somebody forgets that file, nobody will be able to read it unless they have the user's credential. Or you could simply block it, and the problem is bypassed altogether. The file cannot be downloaded. I can give you a quick demo as well of the user experience that we would have here. So we have a username here, a user account here, and let's take a non-Microsoft application. We can go with Slack. Slack here is connected with single sign-on to use Azure AD. As soon as we connect, notice the URL here, and notice that we have this splash screen that tells us that, hey, Slack is monitored. Okay, let's continue to Slack. So I want you to see here the URL. We're not on slack.com. We're on slack.com.mcas.ms, which means that the application is certainly proxied. And there's a bunch of documents. So if I wanna see the document, I can click on it and I'll be able to see it. No problem. However, if I want to download it, oh, I received a blocked file here. So that's a file placeholder telling us that the application is blocked. And we also have a block message here that tells us that the file was not downloaded, and telling us, hey, this is due to your organization's security policy. You cannot download these files. You can customize that with your favorite corporate logo, obviously, so that the user experience is full and they can understand exactly why they were blocked. We also have the ability to block copy paste, block printing, so that it can help you limit greatly the ability of your users to leak data accidentally when using cloud applications. And next, we're going to talk about cloud threats. So that seems like a very straightforward topic. Of course, we have applications in the cloud. It is clear that hackers are going to leverage that. Now your users are in the cloud, your apps are in the cloud, your data is in the cloud. So attackers don't even have to come on-prem. They can just attack the cloud service. And there's a number of things that they try to do. We've seen a large number of type of attacks, such as through fake or malicious OAuth applications, rogue applications, data exfiltration methods, like trying to find out which files were shared, compromising an account, and sometimes trying to compromise one account and deducting data from the other accounts through that. We have malicious insider, whether they want it or not. It's very common that insider would do something wrong unintentionally, but unfortunately sometimes intentionally. We've seen cases like that in the past. Malware and ransomware are also a big deal, and there's no need to say that. I'm sure you've all heard the stories. So here, these are examples of some of the detections we have. I'm not going to read them all, but we're adding some on a regular basis when we see that there is either a new exploited leak or a new attack technique that requires that can be detected easily through Defender for Cloud App. So we have things that are standard and straightforward, such as detecting ransomware activity based on heuristics, and detecting unusual activity, unusual file share, unusual file download, unusual file deletion, unusual mail forwarding rules, for example. That's one of the typical things that people do when they try to hack an account to bypass MFAs sometimes. Things that are more at the network level, like suspicious IP addresses, suspicious or infrequent country, impossible travel. If you're connecting from China and from America at the same time, one of those sessions is either erroneous, and there are ways to adjust that, but very likely it's malicious. We have also detections for brute force. So all of that can help you have an idea of when something wrong happens to your environment. And once you identify those threats, you're also able to take some mitigation actions. That could be disabling an account, suspending a session, all these things to try to limit trouble as soon as they come. And obviously, our threat detection story is not just Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, but it's a number of other products that we have in our suite. Microsoft Defender for Identity, Azure AD Identity Protection. We have Unified SecOps Experience, and we also have now this full integration of our security solutions within Microsoft 365 Defender that will allow you to have one single pane of glass to see exactly the alerts for the different products that can impact your security. Let's go with a very short demo. So here you will see that there's a number of, let's go with threat detection only, and you will see that there's a number of built-in policies. So ransomware, activity performed by a terminated user, risky sign-in. There's a large number of them. Some of them are actually synced with Defender for Identity, but the majority are built in Defender for Cloud Apps alerts. And we discussed them. For example, let's review the impossible travel. It has a few alerts here. So the configuration for those alerts is usually very simple. You have some exclusion that you're able to put in, but most of the time, because they're built in, they're usually configured based on machine learning, and there's not much to configure. But you can see which ones are the open alerts for these. So let's click on one. And you can see that this account, this one is probably a service account, connected from 2 countries within less than 300 minutes. So France and the United States. We don't have the Concorde anymore, so that time frame is almost impossible as of now. And likely one of those connections is malicious. So you're able to see the activities and the different applications that are part of this alert. Should you need, you're also able to create policies. If you create activity policies, we have a number of templates that can help you detect any kind of alerts. So some of them are specific to some applications, and some of them are more generic, such as log on from a risky IP. And let's use that template. You will see that we just have to go with IP address category equals risky. So how do we know that an IP is risky? Well, our threat intelligence team has a list of risky IPs that they maintain and update on a regular basis. so that should you need to find out any kind of risky IP address, you're able to find it from here. And then you can also detect which activity type. Right now, this would be log on, but there are hundreds of them in that list. And a couple other things here. So cloud security and also more recently SaaS security posture management, CSPM and SSPM. We have the ability to detect not only that problem happened, but also that some of your either cloud platforms or cloud applications were not securely configured. So instead of waiting for a problem to happen, we're also able to see to anticipate and see that one of your applications is not properly configured and give you some recommendations on how to fix it. So we have done that for a long time with cloud platforms such as Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud Platform. And we also will have that released soon for actual SaaS applications. It's already available for Office application, where we're able to tell you, hey, your app is not properly configured. Nothing. We don't have any indication that anything happened yet, but this parameter is not optimal. A few things with regards to enterprise integration. So we're able to integrate Defender for Cloud App with your SIEM. We have some APIs that you could leverage from PowerShell or other programming languages. I've seen customers leveraging these using Python, for example. We integrate with other products, as you have seen, such as Microsoft Information Protection. We integrate with Sentinel. We can also integrate Defender for Cloud Apps with Microsoft 365 Defender, as we mentioned, and with Power Automate, which we shall talk about here as a quick example. So you're able, when you create an alert, to instead of creating using one of the built-in governance applications, you can say, hey, I need to have a customized workflow, and I will run that flow using Power Automate. And I've seen a number of customers using that. Really, the sky's the limit, and any kind of Power Automate skills would be a limit as well. But you can do a lot of things with it. Typical examples we've seen are here. I'll share one example that I've configured with a customer. The customer wanted to had a lot of files that were shared and contained sensitive data. What they wanted to do was warn the users that, hey, you are sharing a file that contains sensitive data. Are you sure this is what you want to do? This is, again, corporate policy. And most customers would actually go back and use the workflow to unshare the file because they were warned that, okay, this is out of corporate policy, and most end users want to abide by those policies. And for the users that were not unsharing the files, then we could track them much easier because there were not so many at the end of the day. So these are the examples of things you can do and leverage some of our automation capabilities. Finally, quick summary and next steps. So our investment in Defender for Cloud Apps right now are around making sure that we can help our customers protect as many apps as possible, having a solution that is as robust and performant as possible. We also want to make sure that we help our SecOps users by having a strong integration and full convergence with Microsoft 365 Defender to make sure that customers are able to use the solution and have only one single pane of glass and make sure that the experience is integrated among our different security products. We'll conclude with just a few use cases here. I will not read that slide. I will let you review it. These are examples of things you can do. This is not a full list. There's a large number of other things you can do. As I said, the sky is the limit, and contacting any Microsoft representatives that is skilled with Defender for Cloud Apps will always be happy to help you with it. Next step, you are welcome to sign up for a trial and start using the solution. And you can also consult any of these resources. Thank you all for your time and your attention.